All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's panel and specifically our breakout session today. My name is Neha Paliwal. I'm a portfolio manager with USAID's Development Innovation Ventures team, also known as DIV. For today's breakout session, we are excited to share about the work of several of our grantees, as well as the experiences that they're making strides in the digital agriculture sector. We're taking one of the themes of the ICTforAg conference, Inspire, and we're really looking forward to sharing how our grantees are out there delivering their digital solutions to meaningfully improve people's lives. So first, I'd like to just introduce a little bit about DIV. DIV is USAID's open innovation fund that invests in breakthrough solutions to some of the world's most intractable development challenges. We provide grant funding to test new ideas, build evidence of what works, and scale solutions that have the potential to impact millions of lives at a fraction of the usual cost. We de-risk and provide catalytic support for innovators with compelling ideas to encourage their future pathway to scale, whether it's through the public or private sector. The basic way in which we do this is that we combine approaches using both the rigor of academia to identify, good ideas of what works, what's contextually compelling, what's important in the field today, as well as a portfolio approach of venture capital to help us identify the best ideas and figure out the right amount to provide them. We do this both through grant funding as well as other resources in USAID's network. Effectively, what this means is that we take relatively small, high-risk bets on early-stage innovations and invest larger amounts of money in later-stage innovations that are better able to demonstrate impact. So we are here all today talking about innovations. So when we think about innovation, what DIV does is that we think about this term quite broadly as any kind of creative solution to a development problem. Specifically, we're looking for ideas that can achieve development outcomes that are better, faster, and cheaper than alternatives. As you can see on the slide, what we're talking about, this can be a new product or technology. It can be a new business or delivery model. It could be a new way of doing something that's already proven, but doing it in a better, faster way. We accept all kinds of applicants from any sector. The sectors can be anything that USAID works in any country that USAID works in. Our applicants range from social entrepreneurs, nonprofit organizations, researchers, as well as private sector companies. So a few of the principles that DIV uses to assess what we consider to be a compelling innovation or things that we choose to incorporate into our portfolio. We look at these three pillars of impact, cost effectiveness, and potential for scale. So we take impact quite seriously. What we do is that we very frequently fund RCTs. We're looking for very rigorous evidence that the ideas are not just good on paper, good on assumptions, but they actually can demonstrate what works and what doesn't work. We are also looking for innovations that are cost effective. Very frequently, there can be high impact innovations that may cost quite a bit of money, which may prevent them from being taken up, or may prevent bottom of pyramid consumers from purchasing them. We're looking for innovations that have the potential to be more cost effective, both for taxpayer dollars, donor dollars, government dollars, but also low-income consumer dollars. But most relevantly, through these two concepts, we're looking for innovations that have the potential to scale. When we say scale sustainably, again, if they aren't cost effective, if there's not the right enabling environment, if the other factors aren't taken into account, they can be the greatest idea, they can be the most cost effective, but the way that they are actually meaningful for people is that they should be something that, according to DIV's benchmark, could address millions of people in the medium term, or let's say 1 million people in the medium term, let's say about approximately 10 years. So again, alluding to the way that DIV does our funding, we have a tiered approach to funding. Primarily, this comes through our 3 stages. Stage 1, where we offer funding up to $200K for piloting. Stage 2, where we offer up to 1.5 million for testing and positioning to scale. And stage 3, where we offer up to $15 million, although we haven't really done that much yet, for transitioning to scale. Through this, what we're really trying to do is identify what our applicants need, what our grantees need, whether this is, testing different business models, piloting, evidence generation, or ultimately, when they've ascertained a number of these things, helping support their entry into new markets or more intensively in other areas. Over our 13 years, we've received over 14,000 applications. We've invested over $220 million and worked in over 52 countries. A result that we are quite proud of is that, according to an assessment that we did of some of our early grants, we found that for every $1 that was spent in DIV grant funding, it achieved a social benefit of $17 in return. So that ratio of 1 to 17 is a result that, we are looking, this includes failures, this includes successes, this is an average, and we are interested in keeping that going forward. So again, getting into some of the main sector that we're interested in today, agriculture. Agriculture is incredibly important to DIV's portfolio. It's one of our largest sectors. It includes almost 1/3 of the total awards and over 41 million in committed funding over 10 years. Digital solutions in particular are a growing area of innovation, both for their ability to cut down barriers in access and for their potential to promote greater impact, for their potential to promote cost effectiveness. One of the exciting things is that DIV does not put out specific ideas where we're looking for solutions to this and that. Innovators come to us with their own ideas. So people who have the most creative ideas on how they can use these innovations, digital, to improve outcomes in agriculture. This means that we've seen a huge variety of opportunities for digital applications in the agriculture space. We see applications in satellite data, ranging from uses to crop insurance, both in design and payouts, to pastoral management. We've seen alternative innovations in financing and access to credit. We look at remote sensing, and of course, there are a numerous number of mobile applications that help address access to information, opportunities for analysis, promoting access, or also providing access to extension, which improve upon conventional models. I think mobile applications in particular are sometimes quite exciting because they really make use of other digital ecosystems that are out there, whether it's mobile money, methods of communication, created marketplaces, etc. Through our own internal opportunities for learning, we've realized, though, that digital applications are not a panacea. They are something that, you can have the best tech innovation in the world, but it really takes quite a bit more in order to have sustainable scale. Some of the key lessons that we've learned over time from our grantees has been the importance of flexibility and the ability to pivot. DIV awards do allow this. They're structured for this, to make through our milestones, to make sure that our grantees are able to do what they need to do in order to scale most effectively, again, have the most impact. We've also learned that, local teams and strong partnerships are incredibly critical. A tech innovator may not have key business functions already established that might be very relevant for customer acquisition or for distribution. This can be both important for getting your product placed, also for outsourcing specific activities that maybe is not your competitive advantage. We've also learned that learning and use of evidence is critically important for our grantees themselves. For DIV, we appreciate evidence quite a bit, since we see this as incredibly important for how we're leveraging USAID resources. But we've also seen this for our grantees. Learning has helped them with their flexibility and opportunities for pivoting. It's also been incredibly critical for their pathway to scale. whether it's through their use of evidence for government partnerships, getting things taken on, or through acquiring private sector capital. So we are very excited today. These are just a few highlights from other DIV grantees, but straight from our actual grantees themselves, I am so excited to introduce two current grantees and one former one, Mediae, Ignitia, MyAgro. So each of these companies are ones that are addressing different challenges in the agricultural space through digital solutions. They are taking different approaches, and DIV has supported them in different ways. And we're quite excited about the success they've made so far and their scaling and journey. And we're really interested to hear what they have to say about their own process so far. So first up, I'd like to introduce Patricia Gishinga from Mediae. This is, I have to say, one of our most fun and entertaining grantees. Mediae has a reality TV program called Shamba Shape Up that they use to provide extension advice to farmers in Kenya, Uganda, and now Zambia. DIV is working with Mediae through a stage 2 grant to conduct an RCT on impact and help support their expansion to Uganda. So thank you, Patricia.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody who's tuned in. So my name is Patricia Gishinga, and I represent Mediae. And basically, Mediae is a company that looks at the way we can use media to support education and development across sub-Saharan Africa. We create a lot of entertaining and educative media, and that is TV, radio, and mobile programs that usually have an impact on the audience's knowledge, attitude, and practice. And Shamba Shape Up is one of the TV programs that we actually produce. Maybe you can go to the next slide. And Shamba Shape Up is a reality makeover on smallholder farms. It is designed to educate and empower smallholder farmers and offer them practical solutions and information for them to improve their agricultural practices, boost their productivity and their income at home. So this program started airing here in Kenya. It's been around for the last 14 years. It's very popular with the Kenyan audience. It airs seasonally and runs just before the long rains in February and March. And then we follow the growing season. So how it's structured is that in every episode, we have a presenter and agricultural experts. We visit farmers and then demonstrate to them solutions on how to improve their productivity and how they can make adjustments on their farm. So typically, every episode will cover 4 topics. So we usually start in February. We'll be talking about, soil testing, how to prepare your land, drought-resistant seeds, maybe how to increase your milk production, and so on. So that's how the program is structured. So we have 4 beats in every episode. And the reason for that is to ensure that, we keep the audience, glued into it. So you may be there wanting to know more about how to grow your maize, but then you learn something about how to keep dairy. So that's why we do it like that. The main focus of the program at the moment, especially in Uganda, is we're addressing climate change, adaptation, and mitigation, because in every farm we visit, they tell us, the problems that they have is, related to variable weather. They say it used to rain on a certain date, and during that time, they knew that the rains would be adequate, but now nobody knows when the rains will start. So it's crucial that we actually tackle climate change. One of the things we also do to measure impact is we conduct something we call a knowledge, attitude, and practice research. So we actually go out into the field and ask people, what do you know? What do you think? What are you doing about the topics that we know we have covered? And then go back to do the same. So Shamba Shape Up, having started in Kenya, we then moved into Uganda. And what we're trying to now, the main challenge is addressing the limited access of agricultural information amongst farmers in Uganda. And we know that this is crucial. And the innovative part of this is that we're trying to help farmers get training. So we know that training can change farmers' lives and give them, more education, and they can do better. But we know that logistically speaking, this is very challenging and expensive. So if you're trying to coordinate to, train 10,000 farmers, and we know that somewhere like in Uganda, the ratio of agricultural extension workers to farmers is, 1 to 1,800, we know that, that's going to be crucial. So what we've done is developed this television program that we know can reach millions of people in the comfort of their home. So we also broadcast this in 3 different languages in the different regions we are in. So for example, in Kenya, we are using, English and Swahili. In Uganda, we're currently in English, Luganda, but we'll be dubbing it into other local vernacular languages. And then in Zambia, we are also doing it in the local languages. Go to the next slide, please. A lot of people will always ask us why TV. And the reason for this is the cost effectiveness to distribute in scale. So we're going to one farm, but we're speaking to many farmers. We may go and recce one farm and feature one farm, but we're talking to millions of farmers because they have access to a TV. So, and the other reason we use television is, the potential to reach female audiences who we know are less likely to access, public extension services, less likely to own a phone than men. And, when they're watching this, they're able to, get something and change. And then also viewers are able to see, something relatable, because these are practical issues. For example, if you're talking about planting the right variety and the right correct spacing, they're able to be shown this practically and, using examples that they can use. So farmers are able to adapt this. The reason we got into Uganda was because we were supported by DIV, and the grant was mainly for us to expand into the new market of Uganda, where we were to produce 2 series, and these were broadcasted primarily in the growing season of Uganda. This is in 2022, 2023. And the funding also allowed us to bring in partners in a subsidized cost, showcasing the impact of how to reach large audiences. And then in turn, these partners would now be interested in future collaboration and willing to invest to be on the show. Furthermore, DIV also funded us to facilitate the research of the program using a randomized control trial. This trial, again, examines the direct and indirect effects of Shamba Shape Up. And the research, again, is trying to understand how the knowledge gained from the program is then distributed amongst audiences and how it influences farmers' behaviors, and what does that do to their productivity and yields. So, that's a very vigorous piece of research that hasn't been done in East Africa. So it was a really good opportunity for us to show the scale that an edutainment program can have on the agricultural sector. Bearing in mind that we couldn't do this in Kenya where we started because we've been running for the last 14 years, and it's very, very hard to get somebody who hasn't watched the show. So in Uganda, it was a new market, and this really facilitated us and how to, get into this market and actually look at the impact. In terms of how, Mediae as a company is trying to, be sustainable, having gone into this different markets, thanks to the funding we got, we were able to still get learnings and the impact, even just from our CAP studies, and, working with commercial sector, research organization, and governments. We are now reaching about 1.7 million farmers in Uganda, and this is just the 2nd season. We are currently now filming the 3rd season, which will start broadcasting next year at the beginning of the rains. And we expect that this audience will continue to grow. It also means that we are working with partners, from the broadcast partners to the research and government. So we're able to now even distribute the program in different platforms and have a more wider reach. So if somebody does not understand English, they'll be able to see it in their local vernacular, as long as there's a station that's broadcasting in that language. So that has been really instrumental in us being able to scale. And through this also, we've been able to launch into Zambia, which is also a new market, with the same concept of Shamba Shaper, but we're calling it Munda Makeover. And we are now in year 2, currently, again, same design where we are, we start during the growing season, which is very different from East Africa. We have 2 seasons of rain. Zambia has 1. So we usually start broadcasting in November when the rainy season starts there, and then broadcast all through to April when it's going to markets, talking about post-harvest management, and again doing not an RCT but still doing research and collecting data around that. Some of the challenges we've experienced have been, of course, in different markets. There's a cultural, language barriers, and unlike Kenya, where it's 2 national languages, in Uganda, it's a bit more diverse. So, we've been able now to work with broadcasters to be able to do multiple languages of the program so that we're able to then reach as many people as we can. The other challenge, of course, has been data collection when it comes to audience figures. In Uganda, nobody was collecting that. So we also had to commission our own sort of day after recall in order to understand, what the audiences are, watching, what is of interest to them, and, what is the impact? Are the numbers growing? And we have seen a steady growth of the program through this. So yeah, I think I'll stop there and hand it over to Neha.
Thanks so much, Patricia. And yeah, you can find these episodes, I believe, on YouTube, right? So everyone,
yes, everything's available on YouTube. Yeah.
So definitely, I think very much worth going and checking out. Thank you so much, Patricia. All right, next up we have Teresa Fele from Ignitia. So Ignitia provides Ignitia provides highly accurate weather forecasting data via text messages to farmers in order to help them make informed and timely agronomic decisions. DIV is working with Ignitia through a Stage 2 grant to conduct an RCT on impact and test different business strategies for scaling to new countries. So thank you, Teresa.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us here tonight. My name is Teresa Fele. I'm representing Ignitia today and will take you a little bit through our journey. As Nia already mentioned, Ignitia addresses the problem of inaccurate weather forecasts across the tropical belt. So what started as a research project to investigate the discrepancies in accuracy of global models in temperate climates, so largely the global north versus tropical climates, so the global south, that resulted in an independent forecasting model that produces weather forecasts that are twice as accurate as most of the publicly accessible weather information in tropical climates. And after building this weather forecasting model, Ignitia has then taken this very complex scientific model and reduced it to just 2 lines of text to send to farmers directly to their mobile phones to help them increase their agricultural production and build climate resilience. And since agriculture is a weather business, because it is largely rain-fed, the messages help the farmers make better decisions on their farms, such as knowing when to plant, when to apply fertilizer, or when to harvest. And the advice that we provide is usually crop-specific, location-specific, and based on the forecasted weather conditions from our forecasting model. We produce these weather forecasts on various different timescales. We produce seasonal outlooks that help the farmers with long-term planning, such as crop selection, predicting season start dates. We also produce monthly forecasts to help with labor planning or input purchases. And we produce more short-term 1 to 14-day predictions to help with better timed decisions on the farm, such as fertilizer application or harvesting. We also have a nowcasting system that sends weather alerts to help with disaster risk mitigation and eventually build more climate resilience. So there's several ways on how farmers interact with us and how they receive our messages. We work with mobile network operators in the regions where we are part of their product offerings, and farmers subscribe directly from their mobile phones through a USSD code and then receive a daily weather forecast message. We also work with partners within the food supply chain. So basically anyone that has farmer touch points or access to farmer communities. And in those types of partnerships, we are also able to tackle some of the challenges that the agribusiness or the farmer might have more directly. So if they are struggling with a specific pest and disease, such as aflatoxin or fall armyworms, we're able to target and tailor the advisory that we are giving to this specific weather sensitive challenge. So that was a bit on what Ignitia's innovation is providing generally. And I want to dive a bit into how we are working with DIF and what we were trying to achieve. So Ignitia initially started from Ghana in West Africa. And our DIF engagement was largely designed to help us scale across the region in West Africa, both in number of farmers as well as number of partnerships. So the target regions were Ghana, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Nigeria. And the goal was to build about 20 new B2B partnerships and reach 400,000 additional farmers through new segments. We are well on track for that. So after 2 years on the partnership, we've already reached almost 300,000 additional farmers, which brings us to about 2.7 million unique subscribers that we have reached so far, of which 800,000 are monthly reoccurring users. We are also conducting a randomized control study in collaboration with IPA in Ghana, where the main goal is to evaluate the effectiveness of Ignitia services and how much of the behavior changes that we see farmers applying after receiving our messages, how much of this they actually contribute to Ignitia and the weather forecasting and advisory messages. So DIF was designed to help us scale across West Africa, but recently our geographic footprint has actually expanded beyond that. If you could move to the next slide, please. So in 2022, we entered the Brazilian market, and this year in 23, we started our expansion to East Africa. So now being present in West Africa, Brazil, and East Africa, we are noting the cultural and contextual differences between those regions. And so we quickly also noticed how we need to approach them differently in terms of our product design or business models. Because we've noted that the market consolidation is different. For example, Brazil has a way more consolidated market than West Africa, where AgTech is rather scattered. They are different in terms of farmers' education levels and the complexity that they are able to understand in information. And they also simply have different preferences in tools or delivery channels based on how the local markets work. So it became clear quite quickly that we would need to adapt our current bestseller in West Africa to a local context. But first, what was our bestseller product? It was the 2-line text message that I mentioned earlier, which consisted of a keyword design that was based on word recognition and learning through repetition. It just contained one weather parameter, which is the chance of rain. We did not provide any numerical values. It was a coded system, something like today rainy, tomorrow likely dry. It was delivered through text message, and it was sent daily for a 48-hour forecasting window. And this proved very successful in West Africa. It went through more than 120 trials on the field, where we really tried to identify what is the maximum that a farmer can comfortably understand versus what is the minimum that we need to provide to create value and see actual behavior change. And now we are asking us the same questions for Brazil and East Africa. What do we need to change to put the people and the users' needs first? So we are applying again these human-centered design principles to optimize our products to the local context, and going into farmer segmentation. What types of farmers are we reaching here? What is their level of education? What insight is important to their farming? Should we provide a bigger range of weather parameters additional to the chance of rain? Could be rainfall amount, wind speed, and then do we present these values in numerical values, or do we need to find another coding system in order to enhance comprehension? Which channels do they prefer to receive the messages on? So far, we've mostly worked with SMS, but now in Brazil, we can also tap into WhatsApp or apps because farmers have access to those delivery channels. What time range of forecasts do they want to receive? So thinking about how much in advance do they start planning their activities, and then what is the range of forecasts that we need to provide, and how often should we send those forecasts? So do we send a 7-day forecast daily, or do we only send it twice a week? So those are the questions that we are currently evaluating to update our weather forecasting message structure, delivery, and contents. But beyond the design of the product itself, we are also rethinking the business and distribution model and exploring options such as e-commerce in addition to M&O and the B2B models. And apart from expanding geographically, we're also expanding our product portfolio in general, meaning we add on to just providing those text messages to farmers. So because our model can actually produce a lot more than those simple weather parameters. And we have quite a few visions that we want to explore going forward. One of them is extreme weather alerts for all. Our vision here is to democratize weather and make this very basic service that hasn't been very spread in the tropics so far available globally with an equally high accuracy. And therefore contribute to the disaster risk mitigation in the face of climate change. And this is based on our nowcasting system, which we've also just recently added. The second pillar is the agricultural sector, where we're already very active in and ensuring food security and sustainable supply chains. But by incorporating more weather parameters, we can create more complex and targeted agricultural advisory for a broader range of locations, a broader range of value chains and crops and pests and diseases. And this will eventually contribute to a more stable food supply chain and also more sustainable supply chain. And the last pillar is climate risk insights. We sit on a lot of historical weather data. We sit on a lot of weather parameters that we're able to compute. And since we have been in the industry quite a while, we also sit on a lot of farmer data that we were able to collect. So now we are looking into what deeper insights we can create. For example, looking at farmers' risk profiles for the lending or insurance sector. I hope that this gave you an idea of what Ignitia is working on and how we do it and how we aim to achieve. And I'll still be here to take any questions in the Q&A and hand it over to Nia and MyAgro.
Thanks so much, Teresa. And then I think for our final panelist today, I am, again, very, very excited to be introducing Andio from MyAgro. MyAgro is one of our former grantees, and we're thrilled to see the work they've done from their Div grant and beyond. MyAgro provides a digital marketplace for rural farmers to address the challenge of access to financing. They offer input products on layaway that farmers can incrementally pay for over time. Div supported their expansion through a stage 1 grant that started in 2016 and concluded in 2019. So certainly they've had a big journey since then. But I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you, Neha. Thanks so much. So happy to be here with all of you. So I'm going to start with the reason why MyAgro was born. MyAgro journey started because of a problem. The problem being that 80% of the world's poorest people are smallholder farmers. So MyAgro's mission is today to move those smallholder farmers out of poverty. How? By providing them with the tools, the inputs, and the knowledge they need to increase their yields and income. One of the key prevailing assumptions is that farmers need grants or subsidies or credit in order to be able to invest in their farms. But a very interesting insight we found in MyAgro is that the fundamental problem is not necessarily that farmers do not have cash. It's that they don't have it when they need it, because they earn the bulk of their cash at harvest time, but then fast forward 9 months later, at planting time, they're cash poor again. So the solution MyAgro is bringing is offering a mobile layaway platform that enables farmers to save up little by little throughout the year to get a package of high quality inputs, which is combined with agriculture training and support. That is our model. So in 2022, our farmers experienced an average yield increase of 160%. And an average increase in their annual income of $260 compared to the control farmers. In 2023, we've served in Senegal and Mali more than 190,000 farmers using our innovation. Can you go to the next slide, please? All right, so MyAgro farmers' journey is simple. First, they enroll for a package with their village entrepreneur. The village entrepreneur is MyAgro's interface and ambassador at the village level. So the person that is managing the relationship between MyAgro and its farmers using an application we've developed, which is named Connect. So once the village entrepreneur reaches out to a farmer, they have a discussion to be able to define what is the fit to the farmer's need, depending on the farmer's capacity to save throughout the year, depending on the farmer's plot size, and the preferred crop, of course. Then once the farmer is enrolled, the farmer can start doing the payments little by little, either using a scratch card like the mobile prepaid phone credit cards, or using a mobile money application. They also start benefiting from monthly agriculture training at the village level. And then right before planting time, they receive the packages they selected. The packages are delivered either at the village level or near their village by MyAgro. And then they also have support from our field team, from the village entrepreneur and our call center agents that make sure that all the farmers are applying the learnings and practices they've received during the climate smart agriculture training. So this is the way we operate. The USAID grant really helped us between 2016 and 2019 to scale up our innovation by enrolling more farmers, by training more MyAgro village entrepreneurs, but also by building and increasing our Malian and Senegalese leadership capacity to be able to support this scale up. So this is really something that enabled MyAgro teams on the field and the global team also to build a really solid foundation for our program scale and to have a better understanding of the key drivers and the resources we needed to serve the thousands of farmers we are serving today. So that is about us. And I'm going to stop here and pass it again to Neha. Thank you.
Thanks so much, An, and thanks to all of our presenters for sharing your scaling stories over time. So we're going to open it up for a Q&A session right now, and so please do drop your questions in the chat. But I would myself love to kick it off. I'll take my moderator advantage and start off with the first question. So we've heard a little bit today about how your companies have taken their original digital innovation and either through the use of language or specific testing in specific markets, or I believe, like in the case of MyAgro, also switching from like scratch offs to working with like a more mobile money platform later. I'm curious to hear more about how you have intentionally set up your teams or intentionally set up your strategy to make sure that you can take these local insights or this context to make sure that your innovation reaches the number of people that it should be reaching and as impactfully as it can be. And happy to start with Patricia, since you're up first.
Thank you so much for that question. So for Mediae, through its programming of Shamba Shape Up in Uganda, we've successfully incorporated the contextual understanding of the local markets, the consumer preferences into the way we design the program. And we've done this in various ways. And some of the ways we've done is localizing the content. So the company has really tailor-made the content for Shamba Shape Up program to address specific needs and challenges that are faced by the Ugandan farmers. And this includes information on the crop varieties, the farming practices, the agricultural techniques that are very relevant to them. Being East Africa, we also don't usually have the same farming practice. So we've really taken that into consideration. We've also, had a very farmer-centric approach. So on Shamba Shape Up, we involve real Ugandan farmers in the program, which allows the viewers to relate and learn from their experiences. And this also helps us to build trust and credibility within our local audiences. And we have seen the numbers growing from series 1 to 2, and now we are about at 1.7 million farmers who are watching this. The other thing we've done is, again, feedback and research, actively gathering feedback from viewers, conducting the research to better understand the needs and preferences of the local audiences has been really key for us. And that way we've been able to adapt the program and improve its content and strategy. And then finally, we can't emphasize more on partnerships. As Mediae as a company has, partnered and collaborated with local organizations, agricultural experts, and government agencies to ensure that whatever it is that we are producing, aligns with the priorities and initiatives within the Uganda agricultural sector, and also what the farmers really need to, understand and know at that particular time. So those are some of the strategies that we have incorporated.
I can just keep going. I agree with everything that Patricia said, and I also already did quite a deep dive on our approach to localization when I was presenting. So I think to sum it up, I would say segment your target group as good as you can, observe their needs, test and iterate, and also adjust business models as necessary and not just the product. One thing that we've also noted, depending on what business model we want to go with, in a specific market, we have a very different need for adjusting or setting up the local team, for example. When we work in a market B2B, we need a much more local presence as compared to when we're just working B2C. So, yeah.
I'll go then. So for us, our approach has been to really find our farmers where they are and be as close as possible to what they already know. For instance, the little by little payment system is pretty familiar to the tontine, which are widespread in the countries where we operate. And in addition to that, whether it's the prepaid card or the mobile application, our farmers usually just choose what they are most familiar with. Our packages design is also really close to our farmers' profile, as we offer packages ranging from 116 hectare to 1 hectare. So being able to serve farmers that have no access or just have little access to land was important for us to match their profile. We also offer poultry packages for the women farmers, especially who sometimes do not have access to land. One of the key drivers for our improvement and our willingness to really match the local needs of our farmers are the village entrepreneurs, as they live in the communities we operate in with the farmers, and they're really providing us with excellent insights in terms of the type of products or crops farmers are expecting us to provide, the type of tools, or even the way we can improve our application. We've recently improved our Connect application, going to a 2.0 version, thanks to the village entrepreneurs who are the one using that application to provide us with real-time farmer information. So this is the way we try to really match the profile and needs of the farmers we serve.
Wonderful. Thanks, everyone, so much for that. I did actually a couple of follow-up questions for each of you based on your presentations also. So specifically for Patricia with Mediae, so we know that Shamba Shape Up started because there was a big demand from viewers from previous reality TV shows that were particularly interested in agriculture. Now that the show is really focused like entirely on agriculture, are there any topics that you've understood that have received the most engagement, where you can see that farmers have the strongest levels of interest?
Thank you for that question. Yes, so of course, Shamba Shape Up came as a result of a drama series we used to do, and every time we did anything to do with agriculture, we saw that people had a lot of interest, and people would text in and ask, questions. One particular story was about making silage, which is for your livestock. And when we did that, we saw a spike, and that was a drama series. So it's all about the lives and loves of, what's happening in the village. So because of that, we, from our research, we found that 70% of our audience was rural or peri-urban, and agriculture was really core to them. And that's how Shamba Shape Up started. So having done it for 14 years in Kenya and, now 3 years in Uganda, there are topics that we have seen a change. For example, in Kenya, soil testing, when we started, only 2% of the audience knew what a soil test is. They didn't even know where to get it, because soil testing was done by government. So you had to pick your soil, send it to Nairobi, then wait for 4 weeks, and you would get, this letter that you would not understand what it said and what fertilizer you needed to use. So 14 years down the line, we now, from our research, we see that 80% of our audience knows what a soil test is. We've worked with different companies that have been promoting soil testing, and we've also helped bring, that sector to life by, working with these startup companies and people who are doing soil testing. So we've seen an increment in that respect. So in terms of knowledge, it's gone up. In terms of attitude, people know they need to have a soil test. In terms of practice, for us, we've seen a 30% increase, people now doing soil testing more from our audience. And that's a gradual thing. And that's a really difficult, topic to sort of measure, because in Uganda, we're now doing it all over again. We've done it in Kenya, and everybody's like, I've had of testing for malaria, I've had testing for COVID, but I've never had, soil being tested. So this is really new, and hammering the education around it is crucial. So some things like that, we have seen dramatic changes, but they do take a while. It's not something that's achieved overnight. It's a gradual thing. So where you change people's knowledge, then the attitude will change, and then eventually we'll see the practice. Yeah.
No, that's great to hear because we do understand more and more how important good soil health is, especially with climate change ongoing and other factors. And then, yeah, we also had a follow-up question for Teresa with Ignitia. So it's really incredible that, you've had the opportunity to deploy your innovation, which is truly this, weather forecasting, very accurate, very statistically relevant service, but had the opportunity to deploy it both for smartphones in Brazil and, let's say, like typical normal phones in your other West African countries. There's often this kind of concern that, do farmers have access to phones, or, can a non-smartphone deliver the same level of information? So you talked a bit about these two-line messages and how compelling they can be. As a company, does Ignitia have any thoughts about the difference in deployment, either between like smartphones where you can use WhatsApp versus non-smartphones, where you maybe are a bit more constrained? Do you see that as a constraint, or is that an opportunity?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So I think it really depends on who we are working with and who our farmer target market is, and really that sweet spot in what level of information we need to give them to achieve this behavior change and make them improve something on their farm without overwhelming them with information. Because if we supply them with too much information, they might be in a like decision paralysis, or they might be confused, not able to interpret the messages. So in West Africa, it was really this coded message where we were just providing 2 lines of text, one of which was referring to the day of today, one of which was referring to the day of tomorrow. And we've seen great impact on that also in our external studies, that farmer actually change behavior. But then moving to these other markets where we saw the opportunity from our side to now finally incorporate much more information that we know that we are sitting on and we actually want to get to the farmer, we designed this more complex messages distributed on WhatsApp that also have numerical values. But in these cases, we haven't actually tested in how effective they are, and if the more information actually also results in more behavior change and more impact. So that is something that we are aware of, that we need to be testing in the future. But since those markets are quite new to us, we don't have a lot of data and feedback on that so far. But that's one of the crucial points that we are actually investigating. And then the point behind the whole concept of also working on these deeper climate risk insights is in how do we use the more traditional extension methods, and working with partners and working with extension officers that are able to understand a deeper risk analysis, for example, and then like in person provide this information to the farmers as well. So it's the mix between how much information we supply directly to the farmers and how it needs to be presented, and how can we complement that with training and traditional extension.
No, I think that's fantastic, especially, yeah, again, as we consider all the different ways the information can go out. It doesn't necessarily need to be the most high tech to still really be truly impactful. And then, yes, and then we had another question for MyAgro for so, the DIV grant ended in 2019, but we understand that the world has been through so much turmoil since then, and especially low-income farmers have faced the brunt of this, both during for like COVID stresses, also other things about, the crisis in Ukraine, etc. So given that your innovation is very focused on farmers' finance constraints, have you seen a big shift in their engagement with MyAgro services, especially taking advantage of the opportunity for layaway, or how they are putting money aside, or whether they're engaging with it more compared to more traditional access to inputs?
Actually, with the recent crisis, what we did is not to impact our farmers' capacity to purchase the packages. So we received support from donors to be able to still offer affordable packages to our farmers, and still have them able to keep working with MyAgro. So this has been something we took on ourselves. And the second point was about their engagement. The past few years, what we've noticed is that they tend to increase their layaway investment because they are seeing an increase in their income. So this is really something we are encouraging. We encourage our farmers to see themselves that they can invest their own resources and multiply their own resources. But besides that, they also need to invest more to earn more. And this is something we keep doing with our farmers so that they keep investing more. What is the current trend with them?
Great, thank you so much. And I think we have about 1 minute left. I don't know if anybody has any last sounding comments on, we talked so much about your experience over time, but if there has been, any 1 or 2 lessons, apart from what we've chatted about, that you would offer to other digital innovators who might be looking for inspiration from your stories today.
I think I have one. So we all want this to be long-term and commercially sustainable, right? So I would advise everyone to really think about the sustainable business model early on, and think about ways to create incentives for farmers to adapt the solutions. Because why would a farmer change behavior without any benefits or premiums? So what is in it for them, and really get creative with the business models in terms of bundled services, premiums through the carbon market or through other incentives from the supply chain. And I think that what's crucial here is really that we all work together and create strong partnerships to offer that for the farmers.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Teresa. Anybody else? Any last thoughts?
I think for me, it would be scalability. As people develop their digital innovations and design, just think about scalability, both in terms of technology and impact. As you create your products, think about having the largest scale, not just for the technology but the impact. So how many people can you reach with this technology? Yeah, thank you.
And for me, it will be that MyAgro's approach today demonstrates that it is possible to offer and to scale up products to underserved consumers if those products meet them where they are, and if those products adapt to what they are already familiar with.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone. I believe we're at time, so I would like to thank everybody who joined us for this panel discussion today. I would like to thank all of our panelists for sharing your stories and giving your time. This has been an incredible learning session. In the chat, I've dropped some information about DIV, where you can learn more about the DIV program, where you can read about our annual program statement, which outlines, again, more information about our application process, etc., and also learn more about our portfolio. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.